Started with a crown, then a bridge, then dentures. But you kept losing teeth and keeping pain. Dental implants are a permanent, custom-made answer to decay and loss, the closest thing to having your real teeth. Eon Clinics keeps the entire process under one roof, with a team that works together to make you feel at home so you can have more to give to the people you love.
Watch me. Watch me pirouette with style and grace. An open floor of inspiration. This is my place. 5 positions to start, leotard and tights. A story through movement, under music and lights. Straight and tall, they promised I'd stand. I'm a ballerina who twirls like the blades of a fan. Watch me. Innovative scoliosis treatment at Shriners Hospitals for Children. The most amazing care anywhere.
WTTW programming originates from the Renee Crown Public Media Center. Programming on WTTW originates from the Alexandra C. and John D. Nichols Broadcast Operations Center. We gratefully acknowledge their outstanding support.
What you get from Washington Week that you will not get anywhere else are the best and the brightest reporters from different media companies, and they're able to have a real conversation. How do you think that it's so that people understand how power and politics impact their daily lives?
Tonight at 7:30 on WTTW. Tonight's presentation of Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Mollenhauer Progressive Philanthropic Fund in honor of Ida Mollenhauer, supporting quality journalism.
Good evening and welcome to the Week in Review. I'm Paris Schutz. We'll be joined by our Week in Review guests in just a moment, but first, some of today's top stories. An Illinois state trooper died this afternoon after being shot on the Dan Ryan Expressway. The shooting happened early this afternoon on the Southside Expressway near 43rd Street. This as state police say there have been at least 185 shootings on area expressways so far this year. That is way up from 128 from all of last year. Mayor Lori Lightfoot says an investigation is ongoing into this shooting and cast it as part of a wave of violence brought on over the last 18 months due to the COVID pandemic.
There are people in our community who truly believe that they are accountable to no one. They are brazen, they are reckless, they clearly have no regard for the sanctity of life, and we cannot stand by and have them continue to wreak havoc.
And this comes as Chicago closes out its deadliest September since 1990. The city recorded 89 homicides last month for a total of 616 so far this year. Police Superintendent David Brown today announced a new tip line as a possible tool in combating the deadly gun violence. The line will offer rewards of $5,000 for information leading to an arrest for gun trafficking and up to $15,000 for information leading to arrest in a homicide case.
Cash rewards for anonymous callers whose tips lead to charges or convictions of people involved in both the illegal gun sale and people who commit murder.
The end of Illinois' 18-month-long moratorium on evictions is fast approaching. The ban put in place because of the pandemic and extended numerous times officially comes to an end on Sunday. That means tenants who are behind on rent are at risk of losing their homes, although state and local officials have touted millions in rental assistance that has yet to be utilized. Approximately 21,000 households in Chicago could be evicted from their rental homes once the ban is lifted, according to a forecast released in December by the Lawyers Committee for Better Housing and the Center for Urban Research and Learning at Loyola University. And now on to our Week in Review panel. Joining us are Dion Miller of ABC7 Chicago, Lynn Sweet from the Chicago Sun-Times, Greg Hines of Crane Chicago Business, and Craig Dellamore of WBBM News Radio. Let's get right to it. After decades of threatening to move out of Soldier Field, the Bears finally announced a nearly $200 million deal to buy hundreds of acres at Arlington Park Racetrack. Here's what Mayor Lightfoot had to say.
The venue is a very well sought after venue. We've already got a waiting list for opportunities for 2022. So I'm very bullish about what the future holds for Soldier Field. I hope the Bears are part of it, but I have a responsibility to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to maximize and catalyze that asset. And I think there's more that we can do, and I'm confident that we'll get there.
Greg Hines, you wrote a column this week imploring the mayor not to let the Bears leave without a fight. But is there anything at this point she can do?
Oh, there's plenty of stuff you can do, Paris. For starters, this isn't a done deal yet. We don't know how the people in Arlington Heights are going to react when they figure out that they're not just getting 6 tailgates a year, but a whole entertainment complex and a lot of traffic and congestion 365 days a year, because that ultimately is what the Bears would probably do. We don't know how the company's going to raise the billions of dollars it would need. The McCaskies are not known for taking on debt or being risky. And we don't know what possible incentive Lori Lightfoot could offer without breaking the bank that might lure the team to stay in Chicago. Soldier Field by no means is perfect, but the backdrop is gorgeous. They just have to figure out a way to make the numbers work a little better. And the mayor, I think, could do that if she wants to.
Although everyone seems resigned that this deal in Arlington Heights would be much better considering the new stadiums that have come online. Dion Miller, does Mayor Lightfoot deserve blame for letting it get this far, or is it just sort of one of those things that was destined to happen?
I think it was one of those things that was destined to happen. I mean, the Bears Stadium is not the oldest, of course, but it is the smallest in the NFL, not by much. And obviously its placement there on the lakefront does have its limitations. And like Greg was saying, what they are looking to do, this is not just a stadium in Arlington Heights. This is to put out some sort of a sports complex. Think like Wrigleyville on steroids, right? Like shops and restaurants and hotels and perhaps even some residential things. Now, I agree, this is a very long, complicated journey, and this is only the first tiny step. There's a lot of questions with the financials. Will taxpayers be involved? What will an NFL contribution look like? But when the Bears started their season, they were at a $40 billion stadium out in California in SoFi, and it was glaringly obvious what they're lacking in their facility, and having the space to do that is very appealing.
Yeah, it's a $5 billion facility out there, and certainly seems like the gold standard now. Craig Dellamore, lawmakers, including Governor Pritzker, have jumped at the chance to say, well, if the Bears do move to Arlington Heights, no taxpayer money will be used to help them build their stadium. Do you hold them to that?
We can hold them to that for a little while. I think the thing that'll decide this is, of course, that I think all the parties want the Bears to stay in Illinois, of course. They're not even talking about going anywhere else. But I think they'll want to be as good a host as they can be without breaking the bank, as Greg said. But there is a limit to what they can do. And frankly, there are other ways of financing stadiums that the McCaskey family can explore. So I think there's too much undecided right now to say this is going to happen one way or the other.
Well, Lynn Sweet, this deal might close right around the time Mayor Lightfoot ramps up her re-election bid, should she choose to run for mayor again. Will she be tagged by her opponents as being the mayor that lost the Bears to Chicago, and could that sting?
I think if you want to be critical of Mayor Lightfoot, you have other things to talk about. It's ridiculous to blame her if the Bears go. She can't just add seats to the stadium as if you're putting up some card table chairs at will. So there's policy differences, political differences. The Bears going is not something I would blame her. It is an economic hit to the city for the 10 days or so. What does it say, of 10 home
10
games?
if you include preseason, yeah.
Okay, so you do want to maybe, if anyone deserves help, it would be the hospitality industry near the stadium, where it had fans going to it before or after the games, and already hit with the COVID pandemic losses. But I've lived through reporting on teams going to Springfield looking for help, or even getting bonds to float. I think we're really out of that era. Congress is out of that bond business. There was a time when they would help, and let the McCaskies finance this thing, or let Arlington Heights put out some money, just not Chicago. And I think there will be no political impact on Lori Lightfoot at all from this.
In fact, the mayor of Arlington Heights was on our program last night saying that some municipal taxpayer help might be on the table to lure the Bears out there. Dion Miller, when you talk to Bears fans, you listen to sports radio, do you get the sense that Bears fans are upset about this like they were 20, 25 years ago, or are they sort of ready for the Bears to upgrade their facility wherever it is?
I think this week they are more disturbed by what they saw on the field as opposed to the stadium talk. This news came at a very low point early in this season, and so that's what has fans' attention. But the fans that I've spoken with have been excited about this, feeling like this is a charter franchise in the NFL, and to have a facility that reflects that would be very exciting. I think they'd be excited for something new. It is so many years down the road, so it's hard to know exactly how this will become reality. But most Bears fans, so there are some that want the tradition of Soldier Field, but it's the access that they would have and the things that they would have access to being out a little bit further and having more space. I think that would be truly a game changer.
It was a different debate 20, 25 years ago when they talked about Gary, they talked about Arlington Heights, Elk Grove Village. Greg Hines, as we've mentioned here, there's really not much you can do with Soldier Field. Would the mayor have to offer the Bears a plot of land, like, say, near that 78 area or near Michael Reese Hospital to make it worth their while?
In theory, that could happen, Paris, but I think your better bet is at Soldier Field. I don't think the number of seats is the determining factor. 80% of the money for teams comes from their TV rights, not from their seats. But there are things you could do to improve their cash flow. For instance, the Bears were supposed to have gotten naming rights to Soldier Field when this deal, when they first took over 20 years ago. Then 9/11 happened. Everybody said, "Oh no, we can't change the name of this stately stadium." Well, times are a little different now. There's a big chunk of money there. There's some discussion behind the scenes of doming Soldier Field, which would not only improve the fan experience in cold weather months, but potentially allow the city to bid for Final Fours and host a Super Bowl. And there's this development right across the tracks, or right on the tracks actually, that a developer named Bob Dunn is talking about to put up essentially a big shopping center and parking lot that would bring some other creature comforts to the neighborhood. You add all that together, and maybe, I'm not saying for sure, but maybe you can do something at Soldier Field.
Well, we're going to have architects come forward with some interesting designs for that. Yeah, Dion, you wanted to jump in here?
I was just saying it's an excellent point that Greg makes. I spoke with someone from ESPN when they were here a couple of weeks ago for that Notre Dame game at Soldier Field, and I asked the question, like, what would it take for a sports city like Chicago to host these college football playoffs, to host these bigger things? And I mean, the first thing he jokingly was like, put a roof on it. And that would change everything for our city. That would bring in a lot of economic boost that we're not seeing now because we haven't had a chance to do that. Cold weather cities can host a Super Bowl. Indianapolis has done it. They even did it outdoors in New York. But to bring that to Chicago, I think the fans here, football fans here, would really embrace that opportunity.
Well, this is going to be a debate that goes on for a long time. Craig Dellimore, also something going on for a long time, paying off Soldier Field, the renovation. It won't be paid off until 2033. When you look back on the totality of this, was this a bum deal for taxpayers?
Well, considering that the Chicago Bears are in many ways the most fan-loved team in the NFL, I don't think you can look at it as, just the dollars and cents investment. The Bears have brought a lot of cachet to the city and the city to the Bears. So I don't think it was I think the Bears organization probably thinks it was a bad deal and that they haven't gotten everything they wanted in past deals. That's an issue for them. That's something that the mayor says she can't resolve. So no, I think this has been a good partnership, at least as far as it's gone.
Clearly, if they're going to stay, they're going to have a better relationship with the Park District, as evidenced by those emails between the Park District CEO and the Bears president. Lynn Sweet, Obama and the Obamas were both in town this week to finally break ground on their center in Jackson Park. Is this signed, sealed, delivered now, or is there still pending litigation that could pause it again?
There is pending litigation. There's a hearing on November 30th, and your reference to signed, sealed, and delivered is a reference to the Stevie Wonder tune that was played at the end of the groundbreaking, and it was a signature song during the Obama campaigns. Just something to throw in. They used it as kind of to connect the past, the present, and the future. So the case is in a federal appeals court. The construction is ongoing, even with this case pending. The trees have been cut down, but it is still seen as something that could be stopped if need be. But I wouldn't, I'm not even going to guess what a court might do. But I think
that might have been Obama calling you himself there to maybe set you straight.
Sorry about that. I didn't.
Good line.
But here's the thing. The center construction is going on. It will take 4 years. This court case probably will be resolved sooner than later because it's an appeals court. And in case some people think, didn't they just have some other court action on it? It was a decision not to intervene to stop the groundbreaking and to stop the construction, to keep the status quo. So that's where we are right now. And, it was nice to have the Obamas back in town. They don't come back much. I was told they stayed at their house. And it was what it really was a ceremony because the real groundbreaking, Paris, started in August.
Right, already happened. As you mentioned, the trees were cleared. Greg Hines, has been a lot made of the fact that it's not a traditional presidential library. They're not really going to have a lot of the sort of the artifacts from his time in the White House. So what's the draw of this going to be?
Well, the draw is facsimiles of all those will be available or computer ties. The draw is that President Obama views this as a training center to help young people in the next generation act on their ideas and implement them in the political sphere, like he did as a young organizer here in Chicago. There's some precedent for things like that. The Carter Library has done some of that, for instance. So is the Clinton Library in conjunction with the Clinton Foundation. But no, I mean, anybody who expects to see to put their hands on the first letter President Obama wrote from the Oval Office isn't going to do it. But there are other things there that the former president is hoping are going to be just as valuable in their own way to his adopted city.
May I just say the artifacts will be loaned from, so the people may not know this. The Obama Presidential Library right now is in a old furniture store or some old big retail store in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. You can just drive by it. It's close to the public. There's 35,000 artifacts, and they will be on loan to the museum. So you will be able to see that. A lot of gifts from foreign leaders, jackets, historic pens used to sign bills. Plus, there's the stuff that the Obama Museum is collecting. But it is not an Obama library, though people still call it that. There will be a branch of a Chicago Public Library, but that is, that has nothing to do with the official federal system.
It's
so
officially,
they will have access.
It's officially called the Obama Presidential Center. I think you're referring to NARA archives there in Hoffman Estates that hold all that stuff and will be loaning it to the center, as you wrote about, Lynn. Craig Dellimore, I want to bring it back here to some city issues. There's some confusion over vaccine mandates for employees. Unions like the FOP saying no one's going to lose their job. Be calm. It's not actually going to happen. The mayor saying yes. By the 15th of this month, you got to be vaccinated or else face consequences. What's the reality here?
The reality is that the mayor is trying to say as little about this while negotiations are ongoing with the unions as she can. In fact, she was asked, will anybody lose their jobs earlier today? And she emphatically would not answer that question. She simply said the October 15th deadline is real and we are not backing away from it. But when the FOP, the police union, put out to its members that we believe that there's going to be a testing option that you'll be able to be tested systematically at least till the end of the year if you don't want to get the vaccine. The mayor said, we haven't agreed to that, and we are still talking, but she did not rule it out. So there are negotiations going on behind the scene, but different employee groups are hearing different things from their leaders. So there is confusion, and there's going to be confusion probably until these talks finally settle on something.
All right, we'll have to see how that resolves. Let's widen it out to some national news again. President Biden canceled his trip to Chicago this week because he wanted to continue negotiating over his signature economic priorities. He was on Capitol Hill today. Here's what he told reporters. Looks like we do not have that. So, Lynn Sweet, the bottom line for months has been $3.5 trillion economic bill. The $1 trillion infrastructure bill has divided moderates and progressives. Specifically, everyone's waiting to see what the senators Manchin and Sinema want to do. And if they don't agree to that $3.5 trillion, will progressives say, well, we're not going to pass infrastructure? So is there any progress from those positions at this point?
Well, there is, and it's nuanced. And to make it work, there has to be more negotiation on this $3.5 trillion bill, and progressives are open to it. The reason we had so many stories just last few hours, and Biden went up on the Hill, is that an artificial deadline was imposed. And one of the things Biden said today, 6 days, 6 hours, we're going to get it done. And one of the things that progressives, their goal was to cement the two bills together, meaning you can't do one without the other. And the reason they want to do it is they don't trust two Democrats in the Senate that are needed to pass the bigger, broader bill that has almost all the elements of the Biden domestic agenda in it. So there was progress in that. Talks continue, negotiations go on. Self-imposed deadlines can come and go. What I think is important to remember is that while there might be some disagreement on tactics among Democrats, there's total agreement on these programs. So if you adjust how they're funded, if you say you're going to fund something for 5 years instead of 10 years, if you scale down a program, I think the goal of the progressives, indeed of all the Democrats, is to at least get these programs up and running, get it written into law, and have it done before the midterms, when there is a great risk of the Democrats losing control of the House and Senate.
And obviously in an election season, it's impossible to get anything done. Greg Hines, you've seen Manchin and Sinema say that $3.5 trillion number is just not going to be the final number. But then local representatives like Jan Schakowsky says, over our dead bodies, it is going to be the final number. What will the final number of that be?
He did not say that. I'm so sorry to jump in.
Go ahead.
She's open to I talked to her just maybe 2 hours ago. She's very open to negotiation.
But she's been
Paris,
saying
I think
these bills have to be tied together. All right, Hines, go ahead.
Paris, I think Lynn is right. There is a deal here to be done. It's not going to be done at the $3.5 billion level. The progressives are going to have to come down from that figure. And I'm not convinced that everybody in the Democrats really want to do all this stuff. There are centrists, even now in the party, who look at the idea of spending a lot of money on free college and rapidly expanding health care, lots of other social welfare programs, and are a little bit uncomfortable about that because the other political party, the Republican Party, who are not in the minority by much in Congress, are vehemently against it. They're just screaming their heads off that the Democrats are turning us into a socialist paradise where everybody gets free everything and nobody pays for it. Nonetheless, it's suicide for this party if they don't work this out, particularly the infrastructure piece of it. There's not a congressman who's ever walked the face of the earth who doesn't want to cut ribbons and have roads and bridges and whatever in their district. And there's a lot of other money in there for unconventional things. For instance, if the progressive wing of the party blocks the infrastructure bill, Chicago's not going to have money to replace lead pipes, and you're going to and the risk to people, particularly minority people who live in poor neighborhoods that have the lead pipes, of health to their kids is going to go up. So there's lots of reasons for the Democrats to work this out, but they haven't done it yet.
Huge issue and probably too expensive for the city to pay for without that federal help. Let's move on to some sports. Deion Miller, you mentioned the fact that Bear fans are more concerned about what they're seeing on the field right now. And now Coach Matt Nagy saying, I'm not telling you who's going to start at quarterback this week, whether it's Dalton or Fields or maybe even Foles. Who do you think it's going to be?
Well, it's not going to be Nick Foles. I think Bears fans can exhale on that unless something catastrophic happens over the next couple of days that would eliminate the other two. We got to talk to both Andy Dalton and Justin Fields today, and watching them throughout the week, Justin Fields was a full participant in practice every day. Andy Dalton has been limited. Today, though, Dalton didn't have the brace on his knee, so there is still a question whether or not he could go. The Bears a week ago said we're going to eliminate the distractions and we're going to name our starting quarterback. And now this whole week has been one giant distraction. So it'll be very interesting to see exactly what happens on Sunday. I think Fields starts based on what we observed at practice, but they seem to want Andy Dalton to start. So it's got to be better than last week. I think they're feeling a lot of pressure in that regard, and perhaps that's why they're holding back on this, making this decision just yet.
Speaking of pressure, the pressure is on head coach Matt Nagy and even general manager Ryan Pace. If they lose to the 0-3 Lions, what's next week going to be like in terms of calling for their jobs?
Well, I mean, it's awfully early to be calling for jobs, yet deservedly so, because it does feel like we've been having the same conversation about a team that can't offensively progress for the last 3 years. And to see it developing the same way when you've got this prized rookie quarterback that Matt Nagy's supposed to be able to develop, and then it looks the way that it did a week ago and he gets sacked 9 times. And I mean, historically low numbers. There's reason to question that. I will say, from the moment they drafted Justin Fields, I felt like Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy operated as if their jobs were not on the line. Now I'm starting to see that there is a little bit more pressure there, especially when we talk to Nagy. I feel like his thoughts are kind of all over the place. And I think that is a product of feeling that heat and knowing that his job is going to be in question here. McCaskies have never fired a coach in season. Right. I don't think it happens after this week, but it depends on what it looks like on the other side of Sunday, I think.
If they lose to Detroit, maybe Arlington Heights will get them back.
Yeah, well,
they won't even want them anymore, right?
I think they're happy to have them either way. Very quickly, Dion, White Sox, their playoff season is going to start next Thursday. Are they going into the playoffs with a full head of steam right now?
Getting there. I think the last 2 months they've been nothing more than about a 500 team, which is surprising considering they've gotten healthier than they were in the first half of the season. But this is what Tony La Russa is here for. He is a master at managing this time of year, and he's got the tools right there in front of him. If they are able to stay healthy and get that pitching solidified, I think they can really make some noise. Tough first-round matchup against Houston, whether they have home field or they're headed to Houston. It's going to be a really big challenge right out of the gate.
That's right. They're going to have to rely on La Russa's October experience there. And we should mention next Monday, we're going to have Sox general manager Rick Hahn right here on this program. But we're out of time right now, so our thanks to Dion Miller, Lynn Sweet, Greg Hines, and Craig Dellamore. And that is our show for this Friday night. Don't forget, you can get Chicago Tonight and the Week in Review streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. And be sure to join us tomorrow night at 6 for Chicago Tonight Latino Voices. Then immediately after that, Chicago Tonight Black Voices at 6:30. You can also see both of those programs starting at 10 p.m. on Sundays. And then we're back at 7 o'clock all next week. And now for the Week in Review, I'm Paris Schutz. And thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a great weekend.
Closed captioning is made